This is London, with a message from the Romany pirates. We welcome you, our allies, to join us and devote the next 20 minutes, as you do week in and week out. With great love and great conviction, we will not forget you, our subscribers.
So we're at Tyneham Village. Tyneham Village was abandoned in 1943 during World War II, and the people that resided here never came back.
"225 people were actually ordered to be evacuated for the war efforts, and they were ordered to be evacuated from 102 houses. So that left all those houses empty, and the whole of the village were purchased for £30,000 by the British government.
So why were the residents of this village evacuated, and why did they never return? Let's go find out.
Picture the scene. It's a month before Christmas and the war's going on, and Evelyn and Ralph Bond, a married couple, are ordered by the government to leave their house and evacuate the property. In fact, to leave the whole village. And at the same time, they find out that their son is lost in the war efforts. So Evelyn decides that although she wants to support the war effort the best that she possibly can, she wants to also make sure that everybody who takes over this village takes care of the church, and she leaves a note in the church, a note that's still there today. The village was owned by the Bond family, who bought the Tyneham house, what they used to call the big house, which is lost in the middle of the woods now and left to rack and ruin over the years, and you can't actually access it. But they bought that house not long after it was built in the 1600s, and along with it all the land and all the houses. So when everybody was ordered to leave, they had the rights to be able to offer over the village and were compensated by the government. But everybody in their houses were actually only compensated for what was in their gardens.
So in 1943, the British government and the military decided that they would need this area for the D-Day preparations. So under secrecy, the residents of this village were evacuated. Unbeknownst to them at the time, they would never return. So most of the residents were more than happy to do this, as they knew it was helping the war effort. However, there was a few elderly residents that were a bit disgruntled. Although they knew it was helping, obviously it was an extremely sad time to leave their homes that they'd always lived in. So you can understand why that was so sad. But they all did it with a united effort, knowing that it was helping the country overall.
It's just really strange to think that all these children would have had to just leave all the friends, everything they've ever known, and just go. And to know that you can walk around and like touch everything, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I think most of the things in here are actually original.
It's really
The king above the mantelpiece, that's
yeah.
where it would be placed.
And
I find it interesting, like, that the houses out there, you know, when they're sat kind of working at the desk and you kind of like, remember as a kid, and you kind of like gaze out the window, that's kind of the scene that they'd look out the window. You can imagine like the piano kind of playing, that still works.
I won't do my Twinkle Twinkle again. I think subjected everybody to that once already. But it's odd, isn't it? Because the whole age group would have been taught in here. Everybody, right from young kids to grown up, everybody in one room.
So Tyneham is just an amazing place. It's actually quite, I don't know, it's a bit emotional. It's a bit kind of sad, really. It's got a bit of a sad feel to it, is how I'm feeling. It's the 1940s. Kind of really, me and Emma have got a kind of a real interest in that era of history. And the village where we live does a massive 1940s event, and obviously you can go to places like Beamish and kind of go back in time. But to actually come back in time to a village that is not a museum but an abandoned 1940s village is really quite special and quite, I don't know, quite powerful, isn't it? So this house was called the Rectory. A Reverend Sharp lived here. This is how the rectory looked in 1943 when it was abandoned, and this is it in 1930. Beautiful building. So this photograph was actually taken by the American Army in 1943 when they were obviously over here. The rectory would have been quite a wealthy looking property. You can see just there that there's a palm tree, and behind there apparently it would have been some tennis courts as well.
To think that this would have been bustling with families and children, and sort of behind me here is like what I think would have probably been like the centre between the church and the rectory and the school, because all the buildings we're looking at are basically the town centre. Obviously this village would have spread for many more miles than what you can see now, but this would have been an area where all the kids would have probably come and played in the water, and and sat out and had picnics with the families. And it's just weird to think that it's just completely desolate now. It's just so strange, and I can't even begin to imagine how these families must have felt just being given a month's notice to leave, just having to get all your belongings and just go. I can't even imagine how that must have felt.
So I was just saying to Emma that the word I was looking for earlier to describe this place is eerie. It's because it's just abandoned. It's got an eerie feeling to it, and you can feel that it's just been left. And I think that's because you can feel that there were a lot of love here, like a lot of happy days and summers, and it's really difficult to kind of describe it, but you can feel that it were a well-loved village with many, many happy memories. So in 1947 it was decided by the government that Tynem wouldn't be returned to the people, that they wouldn't be able to come back here basically, because they needed it in the long term as a military base. This was despite Winston Churchill saying in a written statement that he understood that this was no small sacrifice and that he hoped the people would understand, and it was even though it was promised that the people would be able to return here. People like John Gold, who lived in the gardener's cottage, fought all their lives to return home, and John was actually at war when he got a letter saying that they'd been evicted from their houses, and he spent the rest of his life trying to get back home. His last wish was to have a gravestone here, which he does actually have a gravestone here, which is nice because he got his last wish. So in my opinion, after learning the whole story of Tynem, these people they didn't abandon this village, and nor were they evacuated. They were evicted from their homes.
This telephone box behind me, like the rest of the village, just got overgrown and destroyed. And then in 1980, after constant protests from people locally, They got access back into the village, and in 1983 they rebuilt the telephone box back to what was near to the original structure. And then during the filming of The Comrades in 1985 there was an accident that meant that the telephone box got destroyed, and so the film crew actually had to redo the telephone box and rebuild it, and it's actually more accurate now to its original likeness than what it was before. This was the home of the Driscoll family and also the village post office. And in 1983 there is a picture of the two young boys that lived here originally coming back to view what was once their front room, and they stood by this very fireplace.
You can imagine them kind of sat here on a winter's night, can't you?
Yeah, you can. It's beautiful. It's quite big actually for a labourer's cottage, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was home to Ernest and Evelyn Whitelock.
This is the original stable that's still in quite good condition. You can see all the original machinery as well. Between the years 1899 and 1914, this was Tyneham Theatre, and people would come from far and wide in these wagons to come and watch a play. So that's long before the war. So it just gives you an idea of kind of the memories and kind of how full of life this place really was before it got taken off them, basically.
This is the Romany pirate speaking. Thousands of you have shared in our adventures week after week. We thank you for your commitment and your warming, heartfelt comments. May we continue to be free to roam this wonderful land we all share. We wish you a good day and a fond farewell until we join together again next Monday at 8 p.m.
So we hope you've enjoyed this slightly different feel to Romany Pirates than what we'd kind of normally give. And it's
definitely, yeah. But we just wanted to give it justice, really. It's a place we've been interested in. Reese originally saw it on YouTube, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, I watched the guy sort of talking about it and thought, oh, it's a really nice, interesting
And we
place.
just like the era, the kind of, you know, the war era, the feeling that we feel that there probably was then, where everybody kind of pulled together against all odds. You know, and we've always had an interest in that time period. So coming here, it's just a really unique place and a unique opportunity, but you can't get a feel for it until you come, can you?
No, like all our, you know, kind of all the places we show you, you know, you have to come and experience them for yourselves. You have to come and actually feel, you know, and touch the walls, and as daft as that sounds, and to really kind of get that experience. We just try and give you a little bit of a flavour of what it's like. But I suppose we've not been our jokey, normal bantering selves on this, just because this place felt like we needed to give it an element of respect, really.
Yeah, definitely. And just as these people that had to rewrite their story when they were asked to leave, we hope that you write your own story going forward.
See you next week.